Chlorophyll B is yellow-green. Xanthophyll is yellow. Here you can see xanthophyll, yellow. Carotenoid, yellow or yellow-orange. There are two types of photosystems present in the thylakoid membrane. The granum are interconnected to each other by means of red channels. So only water involved in light reaction. During this process, what are the three very important steps in light reaction? Photoexcitation of chlorophyll, photolysis of water and photophosphorylation. Hello everyone, welcome back to session 3 of this chapter called Photosynthesis in Higher Plants. Myself, B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence. Hope you remember in the last session, we studied about the site of photosynthesis, namely the green parts of the plant, that is the leaves. And we also studied about the mesophyll area of a leaf, which is the site for photosynthesis, which contains chloroplast. Now, let us understand, as we all know that sunlight is a very important prime factor or a raw material for photosynthesis. So, the green coloring pigment called chloroplast is going to absorb the solar energy in the form of photons and utilize that solar energy into chemical energy. Now, let us understand the pigments involved in photosynthesis. What are the pigments? As we all know that the very important feature of the green plants is the presence of the plastids. Plastids are nothing but the coloring pigments. So here you can see the wavelength of light, relative light absorption. Here you can see the carotenoids, then the chlorophyll and the chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Here you can see. So pigments involved in photosynthesis, that is chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, xanthophylls, carotenoids are the pigments that are involved in photosynthesis. As we all know that chlorophyll A is the very important, we call this as the main photosynthetic pigment. So chlorophyll A, so bright or blue-green in chromatograph. Major pigment acts as a reaction center involved in trapping and converting light into chemical energy. So we may wonder what will be the other pigments then. They are also called as accessory pigments. So they absorb the light and pass it on to the main coloring pigment, that is chlorophyll A. So chlorophyll A is called as the main photosynthetic pigment. So chlorophyll A, bright or blue-green in chromatograph. Major pigment acts as a reaction center involved in trapping and converting light into chemical energy. Moving on to chlorophyll B. B is yellow-green. Xanthophylls is yellow. Carotenoid yellow to yellow-orange. So these are called as the accessory pigments. These are called as accessory photosynthetic pigments. These are called as the accessory photosynthetic pigment. So which is the main pigment? The main pigment is chlorophyll A. Then what will be chlorophyll B? Xanthophylls. Chlorophyll B is yellow-green. Xanthophylls is yellow. Here you can see xanthophylls, yellow. Carotenoid yellow or yellow-orange is called as carotenoids. So here, chlorophyll A, which is called as the main photosynthetic pigment, acts as a reaction center involved in trapping and converting light into chemical energy. Chlorophyll B absorbs the solar energy, but it passes on to chlorophyll A. So also xanthophylls, carotenoids. So in the blue and red regions of spectrum shows higher rate of photosynthesis. Blue and red region shows this is the region of spectrum. Here you can see as we know the spectrum of light, that is Vidhyaashram. Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So the maximum is blue and red. So these are the very important. In the blue and red regions of spectrum shows higher rate of photosynthesis. So what are we studying in this particular session? That we are studying about the chloroplasts or the plastates, which are called as the coloring pigments. So what are the pigments involved in photosynthesis? Chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, xanthophyll, carotenoid. And as we know, chlorophyll A, which is called the bright or blue-green in chromatograph, major pigment acts as a reaction center involved in trapping and converting light into chemical energy. Chlorophyll B, yellow-green, xanthophyll yellow, carotenoid yellow to yellow-orange, and in the blue and red regions of spectrum shows higher rate of photosynthesis. So let us understand LHC, that is called LHC, light harvesting complexes. So here you can see the LHC, that is light harvesting complexes. So here the light harvesting complexes are made up of hundreds of pigment molecules bound to protein within the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. So as we know, there are different wavelengths of light called photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, right? Then here photosystem 1, that is, what are light harvesting complexes? The light harvesting complexes are made up of hundreds of pigment molecules bound to protein. Here you can see bound to protein within the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Then what are photosystems then? Light energy is trapped by photosynthetic pigments arranged in thylakoid membrane called photosystems. So what are, as we already know that the light reaction takes place in the thylakoids, which are piled up one or stacked one above the other, called as granum, and the dark reaction takes place in the stroma. As we all know, photosynthesis involves two very important reactions, that is the light reaction and the dark reaction. Light reaction and the dark reaction. Light reaction takes place in the thylakoids of a granum, whereas dark reaction takes place in the matrix of the chloroplast called stroma. So photosystem, light energy is trapped by photosynthetic pigments arranged in thylakoid membrane called photosystem. And in each photosystem, several hundred chlorophyll molecules plus accessory pigments are found. So in each photosystem, several hundred chlorophyll molecules plus accessory pigments like the carotene and xanthophyll 2 also is present. So harvest light energy and funnel the energy to a single chlorophyll molecule known as the reaction center. So what do you mean by reaction center? As we know that light energy that is harvested, that is going to be, that is the harvest light energy, and each photosystem is going to harvest light energy and funnel the energy to a single chlorophyll molecule known as the reaction center. So the different pigments of the photosystem absorb light energy of different wavelengths, making each center more efficient. So what is light harvesting complexes? The light harvesting complexes are made up of hundreds of pigment molecules bound to protein within the photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. What are photosystem? Light energy is trapped in the photosynthetic pigments arranged in thylakoid membrane called photosystem. So there are photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 based on different wavelengths. Photosystem 1 is of 700 nanometer and photosystem 2 is of 780 nanometer. So photosystem, light energy is trapped by photosynthetic pigments arranged in thylakoid membrane called photosystems, and in each photosystem several hundred chlorophyll molecules plus accessory pigments like the carotene and xanthophyll is present. So harvest light energy and funnel the energy to a single chlorophyll molecule known as the reaction center. So the different pigments of the photosystem absorb light energy of different wavelengths. So photosystem 1 absorbs light energy in the which wavelength? 700 nm wavelength. Whereas photosystem 2 absorbs sunlight in 680 nm, making each center, reaction center, more efficient. Then there are two types of photosystem present in the thylakoid membrane. As we already studied, there are two photosystems present in the thylakoid membrane. One is called photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Now let us understand the difference between the photosystem 1 and the photosystem 2. Photosystem 1, it has a reaction center of a chlorophyll A molecule with maximum light absorption at 700 nm wavelength. So this reaction is also referred to as P700 nm nanometer. So photosystem, so there are two types of photosystem present in the thylakoid membrane. So here you can see the photosystem 1 and the photosystem 2. Photosystem 2 of P700 nm and photosystem 2 is 700 nm, right? So photosystem 1, it has a reaction center of a chlorophyll A molecule with maximum light absorption at 700 nm wavelength. This reaction is also referred to as P700. Photosystem 2, it has a reaction center of a chlorophyll A molecule with maximum light absorption at 680 nm wavelength. So this reaction is also referred to as P80. So here you can see the chloroplast and the stroma. Here you can see the light reaction which is taking place. Here you can see the light, then the cytochromes which are passed on through a series of electron acceptors. Then mechanism of photosynthesis. Now let us understand the mechanism of photosynthesis. As I discussed, that photosynthesis involves two very important steps or phases. One is called the light reaction and the other one is called the dark reaction. So here you can see the light reaction and the dark reaction is also called as Melvin-Calvin cycle. Melvin-Calvin cycle, which is put across by a scientist by name Melvin-Calvin. Hence it is called Calvin cycle, or it can also be called as what? Dark reaction. Right, so here you can see the light reaction and the dark reaction. So light reaction takes place in the thylakoids of chloroplast, whereas dark reaction takes place in the stroma. Stroma is nothing but the matrix, stroma of a chloroplast, or we can also call it as the matrix. And light reaction is light dependent reaction, whereas dark reaction is light independent reaction. That means light is very much essential for light reaction, whereas for dark reaction it is light independent. So light reaction takes place during daytime, whereas dark reaction takes place during night time. Now, so the mechanism of photosynthesis involves two very important steps or phases. One is called the light reaction, the other one is called as the dark reaction. So light reaction is also called as light dependent reaction, as it takes place during daytime, takes place in the thylakoid of a chloroplast. As we know, the thylakoids are piled up stacked one above the other to form a granum, and the light reaction takes place in the thylakoid. So here you can see the thylakoids. Here you can see the granum also. Then 2 is the stroma. Here you can see this is the stroma. Then 3 is the chloroplast. Right. So light reaction will take place. So in light reaction, ATP and NADPH is synthesized. So in light reaction, ATP and NADPH is synthesized, and dark reaction utilizes the ATP and NADPH that is synthesized in light reaction to fix carbon, for carbon dioxide fixation. Right. Now, the light reaction, it is a light dependent reaction and occurs in the grana and frets. Frets, what do you mean by fret channels? One granum is interconnected with the next granum, adjacent granum, with the form of channels. So light reaction, it is a light dependent reaction and occurs in the grana and the frets. Grana are the thylakoids which are piled up one above the other form the grana. And what do you mean by fret channels? The granum are interconnected to each other by means of fret channels. So only water involved in light reaction. During this process, powers like ATP and NADPH necessary for dark reaction are synthesized. As I said, ATP and nicotinamide adenine diphosphate is synthesized in the light reaction. So mechanism of photosynthesis involves two very important steps or the two phases. One is called the light reaction and the dark reaction. Light reaction is also called light dependent reaction, and it takes place in the thylakoid of the chloroplast, and it takes place during daytime. Dark reaction is called light independent reaction, which takes place during night time and light is not required, and it takes place in the matrix of the chloroplast called the stroma. So light reaction, as we know, it is a light dependent reaction as it occurs in the grana and frets. And during this process, assimilatory paths, these ATP and NADPH are called as the assimilatory powers is synthesized. So here you can see the light reaction, NADP, ATP and NADPH is synthesized, and that is utilized by the dark reaction, which takes place in the, so that is how sugar is formed. As we know, the starch is converted into glucose during daytime, and back starch is converted into glucose is converted into starch during nighttime. So that is, here we can see the H2O is utilized here. Carbon dioxide is, this is called as carbon dioxide fixation. Right, here you can see the stroma, then that is the thylakoids and the stroma. So during this process, assimilatory powers like ATP and NADPH2 necessary for dark reactions are synthesized. So it involves 3 steps. What are the 3 steps that are involved in light reaction? One is called photoexcitation of chlorophyll, photoexcitation or photolysis of water, photophosphorylation. So here you can see the ground state. Light is absorbed by chlorophyll and an electron is expelled out. So it is in an excited state, and here we can see the expelled electron. This is called as the expelled electron. So this is called ionized state. So this is the ground state when it is absorbing the chlorophyll. As we know, chlorophyll A absorbs solar energy, and gets excited, right? So when it is excited, it is going to gain an electron. So it is going to gain an electron in the outer orbit. Here you can see the outer orbit, and that is called as the expelled electron. It is called as expelled electron. So the light reaction, which is called as the light dependent reaction, which takes place in the thylakoids of a chloroplast, involves 3 very important steps. What is the first step? Photoexcitation of chlorophyll. So this is called photoexcitation. Then photolysis of water. Then next comes photophosphorylation. So what is photoexcitation of chlorophyll? So in this picture you can see the photoexcitation of chlorophyll, photoexcitation of chlorophyll. So here, when light energy, that is the photon, as we know, light energy is measured in terms of photons, is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecule, energy rich electrons are emitted. So here you can see when it is absorbing the light, then that is the energy rich electrons are expelled out. So chlorophyll gets excited and oxidized. These energy rich electrons are sent to the reaction center. So the whole picture will give you an idea. So what are the 3 very important steps in light reaction? Photoexcitation of chlorophyll, photolysis of water, and photophosphorylation. Moving on to the first very important step in light reaction, that is photoexcitation of chlorophyll. When light energy, that is which is in the form of photon, is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecule, so and it gets excited. So when it is excited, it is going to gain an electron, and that electron is going to be expelled out. Right? So chlorophyll gets excited and oxidized. So these energy rich electrons are sent to the reaction centers. Then photolysis of water. Next is photolysis of water. The splitting of water molecule in the photosystem 2 in the presence of light and water splitting complex is called photolysis of water. So what is the second very important step? Photolysis. Photo means light. Lysis means breaking. In presence of light, water molecule is broken. So the splitting of water molecule in the photosystem photosystem 2 with having a nanometer of wavelength of 680 nm in the presence of light and water splitting. Actually, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 are involved in light reaction, right? So splitting complex is called photolysis. So in this process, water split to produce electrons and oxygen. So here we can see water is split into electrons and oxygen. So this is the second step. Then moving on to the third step, photophosphorylation. So synthesis of ATP is called as photophosphorylation. Photo means light, phosphorylation means synthesis. Synthesis of ATP is called photophosphorylation. So here it is the formation of ATP from ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate, and inorganic phosphate in the presence of light. It involves two steps, namely cyclic photophosphorylation and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So ADP combines with one inorganic phosphate to form ATP. So this whole step is called photophosphorylation. So what is photophosphorylation? It is the formation of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate in the presence of light. It involves two steps, namely cyclic photophosphorylation and non-cyclic. So second step is photolysis of water. What is first step? Photoexcitation of chlorophyll. Second step is photolysis of water, as we have studied. First step is what? Photoexcitation of chlorophyll. When light energy, photon is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecule, energy-rich electrons are emitted. That is, chlorophyll gets excited and oxidized. So these energy-rich electrons are sent to the reaction center. So what is photolysis of water? The splitting of water molecule in the photosystem 2 in the presence of light and water splitting complex is called photolysis of water. So in this process, water is split to produce electrons and oxygen. So here you can see in this reaction. Then photophosphorylation, the very word itself will tell, synthesis of ATP in presence of light. So it is a formation of ATP from ADP plus inorganic phosphate to form ATP, and photophosphorylation takes place in two very important steps. One is called cyclic photophosphorylation, the other one is called non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So here you can see the cyclic photophosphorylation. So here photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 are also used. So electron transport system ADP and electron acceptor is utilized. Hope you have understood the very important concepts of this wonderful chapter called the photosynthesis in higher plants. I'll be back in the coming session with some more that is about the cyclic photophosphorylation and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Till then, goodbye and thank you.